The New York Knicks master plan may have just been revealed through a multitude of articles, including one by Ian Begley and SNY, and we have to talk about it. So what's up, guys? Welcome back to Knicks Digest. It's Chris Gallagher here, and we are going to waste no time jumping into it today because the master plan for the New York Knicks in acquiring a final star may have just been revealed through a series of articles, one important one being Ian Begley's recent SNY article. So let's just jump right in, see what he had to say. Initially talking about the OG Anunoby move and stuff. He said to acquire Anunoby, the Knicks sent out RJ Barrett quickly and their most valuable 2024 second-round pick that belongs to the Detroit Pistons this year. Some fans and media, including Begley, suggested that the Knicks, after making that trade, no longer had the draft capital to swing a big deal. However, some in the organization disagree with that. They feel like they have enough left to land a top player. New York has 8 tradable first-round picks, including 4 of their own. Those 4 other teams' picks are protected. Some have significant protections, such as the Pistons one, such as the Wizards one. However, the Pistons one is still very valuable because it will probably turn into a pick right outside of the draft lottery. And then if you pair that with enough firsts, teams would definitely be interested. And then he mentions, as far as players, Evan Fournier on his expiring $18 million deal, Julius Randle, Quentin Grimes, Dante DiVincenzo, Mitchell Robinson, Jericho Sims, and Isaiah Hartenstein are all trade eligible, while Josh Hart and Deuce McBride will not be eligible before the deadline. My big takeaway there is that the Knicks just named every single trade eligible player on their team outside of one guy. That one guy, obviously Jalen Brunson. It's not more news that Brunson's untouchable. That's not surprising. It's nothing to be shocked at. We know that. We know Brunson is never going to get traded off of the Knicks. But Randall being added into there makes me feel like maybe he's not fully untouchable. Maybe the Knicks are willing to move Julius Randle if it is the right move. Now, I don't know exactly what that trade would be, and I think the Knicks would do their best to not trade Julius. But that is sort of why I think that some in the organization think they have enough left in the tank. They think that they can move Julius Randle. He's on a friendly enough contract that if you pair him with first-round picks, you could get something very valuable, whether it's in a trade where you're sending Randle to whatever team you're trading for an absolute star for, or if it's in a 3-team trade where some up-and-comer gets Julius and they give more assets to the team that the Knicks are getting a star from. The big question is, who is that star? Who would the Knicks be going for? Unsurprisingly, with recent news, Ian Begley mentioned Karl Anthony Towns specifically and said how Shams noted that the Knicks will always have interest in Towns. And that's been true today, as it was true the day that Leon Rose took over as Knicks president, because Rose is Towns' former agent. He and William Wesley are close with Towns and his family, and senior vice president of basketball operations Garrison Rosas ran the Timberwolves during Towns' tenure, or during some of his tenure, obviously. He's still there. I'm not saying that I think it's going to be Karl Anthony Towns because I don't. I don't think the Timberwolves would ever trade him now. They got too good. Now they don't want to, and that's fine. I don't want Karl Anthony Towns. He has no fit on the New York Knicks. Whereas the Timberwolves have managed to be the number 1 defense in the league with Towns on that team, which is so impressive. And a lot of that is to do with the fact that they have both Jaden McDaniels and Rudy Gobert covering for Towns, which you probably need because Towns is an atrocious defender. So the Timberwolves are not moving him. That lineup is set too well. Also, Towns is a better shooter than Julius Randle, so I don't think the Timberwolves are really that into the idea of Julius and Rudy Gobert as your power forward and center. Whereas with Towns, he can hit threes. He's shooting 41.3% from deep, meaning that he actually can fit better with Gobert than Julius Randle would, which kind of makes me think that you're really not going to see Karl Anthony Towns get moved to the New York Knicks, which is fine. Especially when you look at something like this, where it said that Minnesota has been willing to trade Towns in the past. Begley believes that the Knicks could have traded for Towns in the 2023 offseason, but now the Wolves won't be trading him because entering on Tuesday, today is now Wednesday when I'm filming this and when this video is coming out, the NBA's second best team is the Minnesota Timberwolves record-wise. Towns scores 21 points per game, shoots 40% from deep, gets 9 rebounds and 3 assists per game. It's been a major factor for that. He's been one of their best offensive players. He always is. But Minnesota will have a stiff luxury tax bill once Anthony Edwards gets his max extension. The Timberwolves have already committed big money to Towns, Rudy Gobert, and Jaden McDaniels. Now, if you don't know, you're about to know. Karl Anthony Towns, not too long ago, signed to Supermax, or just a massive max extension. I'm not sure which one it is. For 4 years, $222 million. That kicks in starting next year. Julius Randle makes 4 years, $117 million. So Towns is making over $100 million more than Julius Randle. I don't think the Knicks want all that money on their payroll. When you got someone like Jalen Brunson, who's about to command another huge payday very soon, or command his first real huge payday pretty soon. And also because even if you traded Randle for Towns, at best you're moving laterally. You're not adding more star power. You're trading one star for a completely different star who fits the Knicks way worse. So I just don't think that makes sense, or really doesn't fit the Knicks way worse. But the Knicks have enough defensive liability as it is. They're a good defensive team, but I don't think adding Towns would help them at all because of how much of a defensive liability he is. And I know Julius Randle is not the greatest defender in the world because the effort's not always there, but Towns can't play a lick of defense, and it just would not work on the Knicks. The way that it's able to work on the Timberwolves because they have McDaniels, Edwards, Conley, and obviously Rudy Gobert to really cover for him, and the Knicks don't have that. So it's not going to be Karl Anthony Towns. That is what it is. I think most of us Knicks fans are fine with that. If you're not fine with that, let me know down below. But really, that's not all that we know. Because when we go here, Grimes is still a Knick and so is Evan Fournier. These are not two at the top asset value guys that there are in the NBA. But Quentin Grimes has some potential as a young defensive maven, as Begley says. And Evan Fournier is playing under a hefty salary expiring deal that could facilitate any move without needing to add Randle and his money in future trade packages. And not just Randle. This also means, because he says, for example, guys like Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo, who the Knicks obviously do not want to trade, or even potentially Mitchell Robinson. And the Knicks are actively trying to find someone interested in Fournier and his deal, Brett Siegel of Clutch Points said, which means they might already be cooking something in a multi-team deal. Now look, got a little mixed up right there. But if the New York Knicks trade Evan Fournier this season, which they obviously should, his deal's expiring because he's a team option. There's no feasibility where the Knicks accept that unless they're about to make some massive trade where they need the $18 million of Evan Fournier. But even so, that loses value. The most value Evan Fournier is going to have is right now before the trade deadline because he's an expiring contract. So whatever team wants to take him on, it's going to get a nice $18 million in salary come this summer, which is either going to help with luxury tax or free up space to sign someone depending on what team is to land him. So I do think there will be that willingness of the Knicks saying, look, if it can help facilitate a deal, we will give you this expiring contract, and you can either just get $18 million and get some value there and that alone, or you can give us a worse contract on top of that and we'll take that on. Because, yeah, though we have a ton of draft picks to give you, we understand some of them are protected. Maybe we just traded away our two best young players of value. So we obviously understand that you would have preferred getting RJ or IQ, but now that we don't have them, we can give you Evan Fournier's deal. And if that means that you would take less draft picks to take some salary cap, maybe that'll work. It really depends on what the team is. And I think when most of us think of Evan Fournier's salary, at this point we're thinking of someone like a DeJounte Murray, who the Knicks have shown interest in, who makes the same amount of money as Fournier, who it's feasible to say, okay, well, maybe the Knicks make a move for DeJounte before the trade deadline and trade Evan Fournier's contract and throw some first-round picks their way. I think eventually the Hawks would say yes if the Knicks gave around 4 firsts, which might not be ideal. I don't know if that's the move the Knicks should make. I don't know if that makes them good enough. I don't know if he fits with Jalen Brunson. I could see how he could, but I could also see how he couldn't. But clearly the Knicks want to use Fournier's contract in some sort of trade, which means they're not done making moves. The Knicks are going to do something at some point within the next month or so before the deadline. The trade deadline is in exactly 36 days as of my filming of this. This is going to come out on Wednesday, January 3rd. I'm filming this on the same day. Trade deadline is on February 8th. The Knicks are going to try to move Fournier's deal. Now, here's the question. Are they trying to get another star? And the reason we have to raise this question is because the guy that they have been interested in the longest, the guy who we have singly talked about the most on this YouTube channel, Donovan Mitchell, is not going to get traded before the deadline. I guarantee there's no trade for Donovan Mitchell before the deadline. It doesn't make sense for the Cavs. And they've already shut that down. And so have the Knicks. Because if you look here, The Knicks are talking about retaining their assets and perhaps pursuing Donovan Mitchell when he becomes a free agent in the NBA. And there's sirens outside because that's saying, don't trade for Donovan Mitchell, wait for free agency. And if you don't, then we're going to come arrest Leon Rose. But also, just because we know that's not going to happen, as Mark Stein pointed out, the Knicks don't intend to make an all-out pursuit ahead of the February 8th trade deadline, and the Cavs have signaled to rival teams throughout December that they're not prepared to entertain any trade offers anyway. They're right to do so. The Knicks are right to do so. Everyone's correct in this case. Don't trade for Donovan Mitchell right now because his value could go down. His value's higher than it will be in the summer because there's a really good chance that Donovan Mitchell himself is like, hey, by the way, I'm not re-signing here. Like, you can keep me around for the next year. I'll play. I'm not going to hold out. I'll play for you guys, and I'll try to win. I'll try to win an NBA Finals with you guys. But I'm going to leave next summer. I don't know where I'm going to go, but I know it's not going to be signing a contract in Cleveland. Whether I'm signing in Miami, whether I'm signing in Brooklyn, whether I'm signing in New York, whether I'm doing a sign and trade to go somewhere on the East Coast anywhere. Maybe I'll surprise you, go out west. Again, who knows? It's unclear what Donovan wants. It's unclear what he's planning to do. I think the easiest way to take, or the most correct guess you could make, is that if you asked Donovan Mitchell, if you could just go to any basketball team that you would want to, have no repercussions, where would you go? He'd probably say the team with this logo. I'm going to guess that he wants to play for the Knicks, just being that he grew up a Knicks fan and that his family is located in New York. It would make the most sense for him to want to come to the Knicks. Maybe he would prefer the Brooklyn Nets because he'd get more touches. Who knows? Both are in New York. I know if I were an NBA player being from Manhattan, the first team I would want to play for is the New York Knicks. And second, without question, would be the Brooklyn Nets because I wouldn't be uprooting my life to go somewhere else. I could live in the greatest city in the world and play professional basketball there. Nothing beats that. And, well, in general, yeah, the Knicks are the more storied franchise that actually has a fan base, but, like, the Nets are still an all-right option. They probably have, like, 6 or 7 fans out there who actually root for them, like Mr. and Mrs. Whammy, and then 5 other people who are probably from New Jersey or something. But it is a fan base, and essentially that's what you're looking at when it comes to teams, or where could I go in free agency? And I think if the Knicks and the Nets each get an equal chance to make a pitch at Donovan Mitchell, Donovan would be insane to take any contract with the Nets, because the Knicks are a better basketball team. They're more prepared to contend right now. Sure, the Nets have better draft picks that if they could sign Donovan, they could make another trade. But even then, are they going to be good enough? Are Donovan Mitchell, Mikal Bridges, and Star to be named later, whoever that guy may be, and he might not be some superstar level player, which he would have to be, is that good enough? No. I mean, sure, if they still had Kevin Durant, if KD didn't really care about winning and just hung out in Brooklyn because he liked it here, then, yeah, if you were able to get Mikal somehow without trading for KD, which I know absolutely contradicts itself, or even if you were to just have KD, Kyrie still goes to Dallas, you could go and try to sign Mitchell in free agency, and hey, then you got a nice little duo right there. Or if you could find some way to get some level of star who's been a best player on a championship team or has the real chance to be one, like someone like Jason Tatum, then yeah, but guess what? The Nets are not going to get Jason Tatum because they owned their draft pick, but traded that draft pick away for Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and Jason Terry because, well, Billy King is Billy King. And that's really all there is to be said on that topic. So it makes you think that the Knicks would have the best chance going into free agency unless the Miami Heat could come in and swoop them away. But the Knicks do have the home cooking advantage, and the fact that they're probably closer to winning the title in 2026 than the Heat will be when Jimmy Butler's aging and they are running out of money and have basically no assets to make any more trades if they were to sign Donovan Mitchell, and it would be hell to open up cap space there. The Knicks are in a better position to open up cap space. I think they hold out. And if they hold out and can sign Donovan Mitchell, then they can use the Fournier contract still. They can acquire someone. They could use their draft picks to trade for another guy. And then you could theoretically have Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, OG Anunoby, potentially Julius Randle, and some superstar center instead of Mitchell Robinson. And Mitch is great, but I'm just pitching random things here. The Knicks clearly have a master plan that's going on, which is to keep their draft assets maybe away from Donovan if everything goes right, so they could just sign him in 2025 free agency and avoid having to trade anything for him, and then go ahead and trade for a completely different star and have a stacked up super team that's going to be the best team in the NBA. And I genuinely think Leon Rose is looking that way. Obviously easier said than done, because you are banking on getting the correct pitch on Donovan Mitchell and getting him to come to your team, while also having Brock Aller work wizardry with the cap space. So comment down below what you think Leon Rose's plan is. because I am unsure right now. I won't lie, but I'm pretty sure it looks something like that. I'm pretty sure that is the Knicks master plan. Let me know if you agree with what I'm saying or if you disagree. I read all the comments. I try to respond to as many as possible. Have a great day, guys, and go Knicks.